How's it going, guys? Welcome back to another Trusted Collectibles video. A very special, a very impromptu one today, as we are just fresh off of the Bushiroad Winter 2025 live stream, where they just announced, among some information such as new product announcements, the all coveted restriction list update. And with it does come a lot of very interesting things. So we're going to go ahead and just quickly go over that. Alongside the restriction list itself, we do have kind of like a depth explanation from Bushiroad that we do have here on the main Weiss website. So we'll be taking a look at the restrictions and what they have to say about the justification of these restrictions. So let's start with Slime. And as the resident Slime player, Randall, why don't you take it over?
Sure. All right. So the Tensura restriction that they decided to go with, unfortunately, had nothing to do with 2-1 Shuna, like I was hoping it would. They instead decided to add the level 1 Yom and Muron to the restriction list, which is the 1-0 6k clock encore that on play, you get to discard a Demon Continent trait character from your hand to search your deck for a copy of the level 2 Muron combo. So this was obviously a very nice consistency piece to add copies of that level 2 Muron, collect them in your hand to use at level 2. And also, by utilizing the Clock Encore ability, it potentially allowed you to boost yourself up to level 2 in order to start utilizing that Muron as soon as possible. Take control of the board, grab your cards for the mid and late game. So here's what they had to say as a dev note. Despite being a strong deck archetype, even after the November 2023 restriction, which was when they put Shizu and Miron on a choose one of two, the archetype fell slightly out of favor with the release of Chainsaw Man in February 2024. And then after the August 2024 restrictions, where Chainsaw Man got restricted, the Tensura deck saw a strong resurgence across the ongoing Bushiroad Championship Series 2024 and 2025 season, thanks to the deck having access to both the 2-1 Miron and the 2-1 Shuna, which is a global 1000, and it also, if you have a specific Miron Brainstorm on board, it allows the Miron Brainstorm to give global 1000 on top, and allows the 2-1 Shuna to give all of your other characters hexproof. You got a global 2000 hexproof board on top of the Mirons, which are already 10-5, resulting in an extremely strong 12-5 hexproof board. Players are able to create a powerful stage that consistently generates resources from level 2. Obviously, this was in the form of the Mirons just living due to being gigantic, and then also using their climax combos to generate advantage. So they said, taking into consideration that upcoming releases such as Quint's Premium Booster and the Aobuta third set having seen great success in the Japanese metagame, both of those sets having seen restrictions in Japan, we want That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime to stand a fighting chance moving forward. As such, we have opted to reduce the consistency of the deck by adding Yeoman Miron to the existing choice restriction, and without a direct tutor for the Miron level 2 combo, we expect Quiet Anger Shuna will have less opportunities to support Miron in her stockpiling endeavors. So I guess the idea here is that by making it less consistent to grab Mirons due to just eliminating that 1-0 Yeoman Miron card, they are basically saying that whatever options that you have to freely add specific cards to your hand to utilize at level 2 will probably be dedicated more to grabbing the copies of Miron rather than being able to grab the Shuna, is my assumption. So what are you guys' thoughts?
I can talk here. So I like this list. I like this decision actually, because I think they are targeting the two main ways that Slime is being played right now in the EM meta and also in the JP meta currently, which is playing, or before I guess their most recent balance, which is to play either the level 0 pants remove combo, or just not playing a second combo at all and just playing empty pants. And both of those decks are running basically max copies of this Yeoman Miron as their level 1 game plan, because it gets to their level 2, and also, as you said, is able to clock encore itself to accelerate yourself 2-2 to get onto the Miron game plan immediately. So once again, it's a forcing players to drop the most popular build and to adapt and change without outright killing the deck. And I think the second thing that this does in respect to the upcoming Quince set, which is tomorrow, right? Is that deck, the most popular deck from Quince, is going to be a standby deck that was already going to challenge the Murons on board. And I think if they took away Shuna, this is what I'm reading, is that if they took away Shuna, then Muron would have zero way to contest with the Quince standby deck at all. But by having still access to Shuna, even though it's at lower consistency, it gives them like the deck some kind of competition at 2. Like they don't just get to like freely like walk away with their level 2 standby plan, and it actually might curb that deck rather than, because like that deck we know for sure on release is going to be really strong, and they can't really ban that deck ahead of time like before it's released. So by not hitting Slime as much, they kind of curbs the power of a deck that is on the horizon that is expected to do really, really well. So I think that's kind of an interesting way to approach it, because I was a little worried that like if Muron gets hit too hard, then like we're just gonna be seeing like 6 months of standby Nino, right? But now this is like, oh, maybe Muron is still playable into that matchup. It's not gonna be too terrible.
My day one thoughts, hour one thoughts. Okay. I actually also do see this edition fairly favorably. Now, I would have preferred something like the obvious pick of adding Shuna or adding Stock Swap, or even to the extreme of just hitting Muron herself. However, I think one of the biggest strengths of Slime and Seven Deadly Sins is that they're two of the only decks in the game that can just slam Climax and 3 dudes at level 0 very consistently and still go into a very powerful end game and mid game in Slime's case. Specifically, the level 0 Rimuru deck is just extremely powerful, and that deck really relies, like Simu said, on running a full set of the level 1 Claw Conqueror Searcher in order to get into its level 2 game. So with their consideration that they still want Slime around, but definitely want to weaken it, I do think that them forcing the direction of Muron decks into something that is most likely going to be level 1 focused, maybe going back to standby, or trying another level 1 combo that can just help you find the Murons easier through searching or salvaging through a level 1 combo, compared to the level 0 remove combo, which like it didn't really care what it added a lot of the time. You just wanted the raw advantage and the plussing, and then just running 8 copies of Muron essentially in your deck was good enough. So I can understand this list, and I'm okay with them not hitting it more, I think, because I do think this is quite significant. Now, that's not to say that other Muron lists in the past have run only 1 or 2 copies of the Clock Bonder and still seeing success. I still think Slime is going to be a very good deck, but it certainly won't be the type of level 0 oppressive game plan where you just never really feel like you have a chance in half the games because they open 3 guys in the climax and they go first and you feel like you have a 20% chance to win or something, just because their consistency of getting into the level 2 game is just so high. So I can get behind this list, personally speaking. Maybe I'll change my mind when I wake up tomorrow morning, but for the time being, I do appreciate that. I think the train of thought here is fine. Yeah. Randall, what do you personally think about this list as someone that probably plays Slime the most out of anyone of us here?
Okay, so like my knee-jerk reaction is that okay, well this is also like really biased towards the way that I specifically like and dislike playing Slime. So the thing is that I don't like playing Shuna in my own decks just because I really hate being forced to run the Muron Brainstorm, because I really don't like Search Brainstorm. I feel like I would rather just have other abilities that allow me to grab the specific cards I want from the deck, and then I just like how Salvage Brainstorm allows me to not only play around what I can already see, but also allows me to much more consistently play around the size of my deck, because regardless of how many climaxes you hit, you're not pulling cards out of your deck like you would with a Search Brainstorm, so it's a lot easier to play around, right? And so for that reason, I personally am not a huge fan of running the 2-1 Shuna, even though it is such a really powerful package. And then so the direction that I've taken my decks, because like I mainly play Slime in Japanese. Like I have only pulled out English Slime decks when I was borrowing it for like an English only tournament, like a shop challenge or something, right? And so in my version of the deck, I play the level 1 Rimuru door combo, and then I also just run the 3 rules package, considering that you do not have to run, or well, you can't run the 2-1 Shuna level 0 Miron back row in Japanese. Like 3 rules Rimuru and the 1-0 event package has just, like, over the course of the last like 6 months or so, just basically become one of my all-time favorite packages in Tensura. And I'm pretty sure like everyone in SoCal that is like see me playing Slime, they're just like, yeah, he runs that in like all of his decks, and it's just that good. And so those cards in particular, I think are a really, really strong way to add those Mirons to your hand, collect them for level 2. But at the same time, it can be a little bit weird if you're trying to play the 3 rules package alongside Miron and Shuna, Miron Brainstorm plus Shuna back row, just because of, you know, the back row space situation. So with that being said, the list that I did try out for like an English version of that Japanese list that ran 3 rules Rimuru, in general, I only ever ran 1 copy of Yom in that deck in the first place, just because the other ways that I had to grab those level 2 pieces were already getting the job done pretty well. And also the fact that the level 1 combo I was running was red, and then the event that goes with 3 rules Rimuru is yellow, so I didn't want to like put too many colors into my level 1 game, and so the Yom was just kind of there as like a really rare backup option. So like in that case, like it's kind of just a really unique perspective, I feel, compared to pretty much every other player. Yeah. Because like we've seen in the past, like some other people in like the English-speaking Weiss space, like when I bring up like this like Rimuru Korone combo in like conversation, they're just like, they've literally never seen the combo played like in their life. Like there's like some people have said things like this can't be a serious consideration, but like I feel like it's still definitely a potential option that it just kind of isn't going to be appealing to everybody as they like build their decks, right?
As long as Muran 2-1 is around, there will be a way. Slime will always be relevant as long as Muran 2-1 is around. In regards to your opinion on Shuna, I think it definitely is very valid. Search Brainstorm is obviously not preferred. I do think that by Bushiroad having left Shuna alive, it allows Slime players to still build decks in such a way as to basically have an out in certain matchups that really depend on it. Because obviously, Shuna is going to be a very matchup-dependent card. If you know your matchups, half the games you just don't need to go for Shuna at all. Then in the other half of the games, you're playing against Overlord. You're playing against Nino with the -3 soul counter. You're going against anything that has like you want to early play and they have anti-change, you know, they have less counter, they have minus soul counter, they have money counter. These are really game affecting cards that can be potentially negated by just your simple 2-card back row. Even something like the resurgence of Escanor is perhaps single-handedly still held back by the fact that Shuna is still alive, right? So there's a lot of very minute things here, that very nuanced things, and we'll have to see how players really move forward with their Slime deck building. Me personally, I do think Slime is still going to be a force to be reckoned with. Simu, do you have any closing thoughts on Slime before we move on?
Yeah, so far in BCS 24-25, every single top 4 slime list has run at least 2 of the Yeoman Miron. Even in decks that ran a level 1 combo, in top 4, they are seen running up to 4 of the 1-0 Yeoman Miron. The only deck that didn't run this card that was top 4 slime wasn't playing Miron, it was a standby. So at the very least, every deck that was doing well is going to have to change significantly. 2 to 4 copies of their deck is going to have to be different cards, and these cards like formed a very crucial part of the deck. And the deck no longer has access to specifically a costless way to clock yourself to go up a level. And that's going to have to come through other cards, right? I think there's like a goblin that does it. I've seen it run like a few times.
It's like the dad. No, it's not the dad. It's the son.
No, it's like the brother, right?
It's the son. So he can on play. He clocks from hand to like top check X or something.
Yeah. But like slime players will have to be creative. They will have to look at other options, and I do think it'll be. I think it's good. I enjoy seeing players have to adapt, and if they can still make the deck strong, then that's like a credit to them, right? And I'm always excited to see players kind of like rise to that kind of challenge.
So actually, I do have one thing that I didn't really think about before, and now I think it's pretty relevant to bring up. So now that Shizu combo and the Yeoman Miron level 1 are both effectively out of the picture for 2-on Miron decks, that is basically all of the blue level 1 things that could really see play outside of playing literally the other Shizu level 1 combo, which is the one from set 2. It's like top check 4, add 1, right?
Right.
So if that's the case, if you were to continue running the Rimuru level 0 combo, what are you playing at level 1? Because like there's like no blue options left. You're gonna have to dip into another color, and that can make things a little bit awkward if you're at like 1-0, right, and you want to play your combo. And so I'm kind of curious to see what actually does end up filling the hole if people want to continue playing Rimuru level 0 decks. And if there isn't anything good, will they move on to Shizu level 1, which we have seen, by the way. It's popped up like once or twice throughout the BCS season so far. Or will they move on to the combos of the other colors? Like, will we start seeing the Milim combo making a bit of a resurgence? Because that one's not exactly super popular right now. Or maybe we will see people running even the Rimuru Korone combo, the one that I'm running. That's what I'm thinking. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, even on top of that, since like a lot of decks are playing this 1-0 at like pretty high numbers, and since this card isn't that useful later on, they're most likely leveling this for their blue, because you need blue for Miron, and you also need blue in the level for Benimaru, right? And so like losing up to 4 blue in your deck, especially for decks that weren't playing like a blue level 1 combo to begin with, and they need like blue sources from elsewhere, is actually pretty significant. Like, I do think this will negatively impact the ability of Slime to consistently get color in a way that like it won't be easy to get as easy to get color now as it was before, and people have to actually like be more proactive about like guaranteeing color, or maybe even playing like the Soe like color swap to make sure that they get color. Like, it's just it'll affect a lot more than just like losing specifically like the utility.
Yeah, guys, there's this really cool Rimuru level 0 in set 3. It's 3k and it runs to center and it can go to stock. Don't ask Mike for his opinion on it, because he'll just tell you all the bad things. Just don't.
So there's this level 1 Ranga, guys.
That card is actually pretty good. Yeah.
6/5 on play, on reverse during the turn displayed. Rest one of your other characters, search your deck and pay 1, and then search your deck for a Demon Continent. You never know. But yeah, people definitely will have to adapt, and obviously it's not going to be as good as previous, but that's the point, right? And we'll have to see if the extra struggle of deck building, the extra pinch of resources is going to be the difference maker. All right, let's move on to the next restriction. 7 Deadly Sins did receive an addition to its restriction list. the two new additions are the level 3 Diane stock swap, as well as the level 3 Dreyfus. Shuffle back everything from your opponent's waiting room except one climax. We commonly call this a Fumio effect. The combination of the Dreyfus and Diane, alongside being able to play double or triple Hendrickson very consistently at level 3, is what is so scary about the 7 Deadly Sins level 3 game. The level 0 Elizabeth allows the player to generate immense amounts of resources, put on a lot of pressure starting at level 0 all the way through level 3, and has a very high chance of, even if you were at mid to low level 2, you can still get blown out by the combination of Diane, Dreyfus, Hendrickson. So in this list, they have decided to add both onto the restriction list. So I'll go ahead and read this intern Kun note. It is a bit short. So, a new archetype of the 7 Deadly Sins has seen great success across the ongoing Bushiroad Championship Series 24-25 season. Having access to both Dreyfus' usual self, which is the Fumio, and Diane, wielder of Gideon, which is the stock swap, allow players to easily push for lethal with Hendrickson no longer human, which was everyone's replacement after Gilfender got hit. Or after
Escanor.
Gilfender.
Yeah, Escanor and Gilfender, yeah.
While other combinations were considered, we decided to approach this with caution and expand the existing restrictions to include both Dreyfus' usual self and Diane, wielder of Gideon. So, very short and very concise explanation, and yet I think this really says everything that needs to be said. Their explanation is very self-explanatory. The combination of those two cards alongside a very explosive finisher in Hendrickson was simply ending games with too high of a frequency, and sometimes it really felt like it seemed unfair and punishing for you to be playing a game of Weiss Schwarz, normally compressing, getting a lot of clean stock, and then just losing because you had a clean stock compressed deck. So I do like this hit. People still get to play with Elizabeth, which is the cornerstone of modern competitive 7 Deadly Sins decks. So the early game is not going to change, but the end game is significantly weaker. What are your guys' thoughts? Let's start with Randall. What do you think?
So the main thing that I'm thinking about when I see this list, I mean, like, you pretty much said all there is to be said about, like, how the end game is going to get weaker. Like, obviously it's going to get weaker. My main thought process goes to which one of the two you pick. I feel like a lot of the time people are just going to pick the stock swap, as that is more often than not seen as the higher impact option between the two. Although Dreyfus having a drastically lower cost for his effect, because like he effectively comes into play for just one stock, whereas DN is a full 3 stock. You have to kind of take that cost to effect ratio into account. I think that if you are shooting for an ultimately higher ceiling for playing 7 Deadly Sins, you probably should just go for what you feel is the higher impact option in most situations, which is going to be the DN. But as far as the effectiveness of the hit, I think we will just kind of have to see moving forward whether or not this is going to keep the deck from being really silly still. Because I even considering that, like, well, actually no, I shouldn't say that. I was gonna say that seeing both stock swap and Fumio and as added on to like a full end game is pretty rare, but I feel like more often than not you would just be going for stock swap Fumio, like double Hendrickson in that case. So yeah, I still think it's probably fine to just like put both of these together. I will say though that Escanor literally did nothing wrong and then just got like the big stray here. Like he literally can't play either of those anymore, so like
Escanor wasn't playing that anyways, it's fine.
Yeah. So I also think you picked Diane, and for a completely different reason. It's because you just play the Hawk Fumio now, right?
Yep.
If you want Fumio, you just play Hawk Fumio. And because Hawk Fumio costs 3 stock and an additional hand, I believe, whereas like Dreyfus costs 1 stock and
2 stock, I think. It's
well
Hawk
he's a 2-1.
It's a
2-1. It's a 2-1 and it's pay 2, rest the character on play.
Oh wait, it's not pay 1, ditch 1?
No, it's pay 2, rest.
Yeah. That's why I said it's Hawk costs 3 stock, and Dreyfus costs 1 stock. So the difference in stock is enough that Diane, Hawk plus like you're not gonna have enough stock to do like any more than like one Hendrickson, right? And I think like if that's the case, that's probably fine. It's still kind of scary that they can still do Diane Hawk single Hendrickson and maybe that still wins in the game, but like I definitely think you pick Diane because like if you really need a Fumio, you're just gonna play Hawk.
I mean Diane Hawk double Hendrickson isn't even that unreasonable. That's still 10.
Yeah, basically triple Hendrickson becomes double Hendrickson, and double Hendrickson becomes one Hendrickson. So it does matter. It is a fairly big nerf. 2 stock is one Hendrickson. So we'll have to see.
Yeah,
but...
so I do think it is a nerf. I think for deck building, it's not going to actually change that much because you literally just take out your Travises, you put in Hawks, and then like the deck is basically the same. I will say that the fact that they did not change anything existing on the list means that these decks cannot play Gil Thunder, which is actually relevant because they were playing Gil Thunder as a bouncer for matchups like Shauna, as well as the top check information on the final turn is actually really good because Hendrickson is able to like side for like really precise numbers, especially like if you see like a 2-soul trigger, you know, you can side with your Hendrickson and stuff like that. So that is like a side hit that is potentially like good in the sense that like I think SDS just has fewer like they lose a good matchup in Shauna, right? Like
you know what people might actually have to do if they're scared of Shauna now? They just cut blue. There's no blue anymore, and they just add red.
Wait, they cut what?
Yeah.
They cut what?
They cut blue.
Wait, what?
Wait, well, how do they cut blue?
Wait, how do you cut blue? You have to play Henderson.
Oh yeah, no, sorry.
No. You mean they cut?
Okay,
green,
you cut. sorry.
You mean they cut green? You mean they cut green?
No, you know,
I mean, you can cut.
I'm still sick.
Oh well, I mean, okay. If you cut green because you're not playing stock swap, and then you don't play Gil Thunder Bouncer, so you play the Merlin Bouncer, which is also a healer, so you don't have to play green for Deanne early play.
Correct, yeah. And then maybe you like play like maybe your green package is like your climax swaps and then stock swap. So like you're not trying to get stock swap every game. You just like clock your climax swap at level 3 if you need a stock swap or something. And then you play a bigger red package so you can have access to the bounce.
Yeah, it is also just possible to run quad color. You know, decks have seen worse.
Yeah.
So yeah, also very interesting.
I'm saying that like the fact that Gil Thunder is on the list is actually pretty relevant.
Okay, well here's my thought process then. If we get to that point, where's the red coming from?
Well, you're playing
7 Deadly Sins runs like 25
a lane
zeros.
a lane Cowgirl.
Oh sure.
You're running like there's a lot of red.
Yeah, you can even run the Rize Bond from set 1. Like you can definitely make something up.
Yeah.
Like 25 zeros on average in 7 Deadly Sins. If anything, like recent lists have actually slimmed down on level zeros in favor of adding a set of trees.
Oh wait,
what do you
do about trees then?
If you actually need space, you just cut. Yeah, if you need space, you just
can't play trees.
Okay.
Yeah. Trees was all about just slimming things down into a very streamlined deck, running only the minimum of the good stuff, and just trees acted as 4 copies of anything you wanted. And if color becomes an issue, then just back to running more zeros, like the deck has done for the past year.
The problem with playing trees with this ban list is that like 2 of the things that you want to tree is no longer your deck, right? It's like it's harder to use trees to get like your bouncer and your other things when you can't run them. So like yeah.
It's also possible that like you just forego the Shauna matchup in terms of like trying to tech it because it's just too complicated to tech for it.
But then you lose a good matchup, right? Which is like relevant. I think that
so
makes
you know
it so that...
this is the type of deck building that I think we should encourage. You know, you have to make a sacrifice somewhere now. Like 7 Deadly Sins didn't have to make sacrifices before. Now they do, in multiple ways. So
yeah,
good
so
stuff.
I've been clamoring for this specific hit for like years at this point, right? And so like I'm glad it's finally out. And you know, like we'll see if 7 Deadly Sins still has what it takes to do well. I expect it to do pretty well still, but I don't expect it to be extremely I don't expect it to be overpowered or even like what's the right word? I was trying to think.
I certainly don't think it'll see as high rep as it has. I think a lot of people will move on.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
I mean, like they have they have a couple really good decks coming up that they can move on to
Yep.
if they don't want to play 7 Deadly Sins
But
anymore.
for the ones that are committed and dedicated to the franchise, just like how as long as I think Muron is alive, Slime players will find a way. As long as Elizabeth level 0 Brainstorm is alive, Sins players will find a way. So,
Speaking of as long as one card is alive, let's move on
take it
to
away,
the
Simu.
Nazarick.
Take it away, Simu.
All right,
So
as long as
picture here is broken, by the way, but I'll go ahead and throw up something on screen.
yeah. All right, so the new ban list for Overlord is going to be
Nazarick.
or Nazarick, yeah. Nazarick / Overlord is going to be the 1/1 Eins, which I am not going to read that name for a variety of reasons. The 1/0 Shaltir True Vampire Ancestor, which works alongside the Vampire Bride card to get you additional draws at the cost of clocking yourself. And the Deputy Leader of the Pleiades, Yuri, which is the level 2 card that can also get you additional draws and refunds of stock when you play her if you have a full board. So, if you want to play the deck as you can right now, you basically are forced into picking the level 1 Eins, because that's the card that gives your level 3 Eins hexproof, 4500 power, and a bunch of other effects to prevent your opponent from being able to interact with it. If you do not choose this level 1 Eins, then after you use your level 3 Eins combo to get all the goats as markers, all your opponent has to do is just bounce it or do anything with it, and then you lose all your markers, and then your deck no longer works. So that means that Eins players no longer have access to both the level 1 Shaltir and the Vampire Bride, so that's potentially up to 8 cards out of their deck.
Oh, no. You're good. You're good. Yeah.
Yeah, and they also do not have access to the 2/1 Yuri, which was played at pretty high copies, like 2 to 3.
No,
I don't think I've seen.
There's
4.
definitely. I'm pretty sure I played 4.
Okay. Well, you can play up to 4 for sure.
At some point, I have played 4. In my opinion, you should not be running this at less than 3. In my opinion.
Correct. Yeah. So this is also another high copy count, because this is like what you're using at level 2 to draw back into your gold bar for the second turn of combo. So that's potentially 12 cards out of this deck that need to find a replacement. That's huge. All right, let me read the Intern Kun note right now. With the restriction for That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime going into effect, we expect Nazarick Tomb of the Undead to be the next deck to beat. While we don't want Eins to take over the entire meta, we don't want to share off too much wool from our goats either. As such, we're opting to slightly reduce the deck's consistency by adding choice restrictions for the 1/1 Eins, the 1/0 Shaltir, and the 2/1 Yuri. Both True Vampire Ancestor Shaltir and Deputy Leader of the Pleiades Yuri greatly increase the deck's consistency with their abilities that allow players to draw into their outs from level 1, while also filling out their waiting room with black little goats. Not drawing into their outs, is specifically really drawing into the climax.
Yeah.
That's like really relevant here. With the lost inconsistency, we expect Sorcery King Eins will be slightly less conquesty.
Yeah.
Rather than slightly less, how do you play this deck? Like,
Just trigger gold bar forehead.
So I think losing Shaltir is not that significant, because a lot of lists were already not running the Brides package. In fact, the most recent top deck from the Vancouver BCS was not running Shaltir at all. But I have literally never seen an Eins deck not run Yuri. I have never seen an Eins deck succeed without like being able to draw the climax at level 2. So like, dude, that is actually huge. Like,
I don't think I've ever seen an Eins game where a 2/1 Yuri wasn't even played. Like,
right. Like that is massive to me. Like, that losing that card is like, you just have, like, how are you getting the climax back into your hand? You basically have hard grip 2, which is like
you have
really
to go
rough.
into the top trick 3 Brainstorm now. You have to.
That's probably true.
Yeah,
right?
Nazarick does have a top trick 3 Brainstorm. You just have to run it now. There's no other option.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not as if there aren't, like alternatives. This is obviously an alternative, but it's, it's not going to be as reliable. It's not literally no stock. It does cost stock, and it does cost the back row, and your back row is generally going to be fairly precious. One of them is going to be the 1/1. The other one, maybe you just play like 2 top check 3 add 1 brainstorms and like 1 Shaltir brainstorm now. But Nazarick players really like playing double Shaltir brainstorm, like both the tap 2 and the tap self, right? So Yeah, again, it's a list that requires you to struggle a lot more for consistency and resources, but doesn't kill the deck, I think. Nazarick dedicated players will still find a way, and I think if people start underestimating this deck now, the true masters of Nazarick can still find success. But Yuri is definitely a significant hit.
Mm-hmm. So, Randall, you have played this deck, I believe, quite a bit. Mm-hmm. And I believe you were not playing Bryce package.
Correct.
The last time you were playing. Mm-hmm. So, what are your thoughts on losing both the Brides and Yuri? Like, what do you think would go into those spots?
Okay, well, okay. So, like, the thing is that I already didn't play Brides. And so, the idea behind my version of the deck was you run the Cocutus level 0 Chaser, which some people are just, like, running regularly now anyway. But I also ran Clean Cut, and then I ran a higher than average count of Brainstorms. I think the number of total zeros I ran in the deck was like 20 or 21. And so the idea behind that was just to get as much advantage out of the level 0 line that I possibly could in comparison to a deck that didn't run these plussing zeros, where they're just like losing cards all over the place, right? And so in those kinds of builds where you run the Brides package, you can get those cards back by using Brides to hit yourself. But my idea was that if you get enough raw advantage out of your level 0 game, you just don't need to hit yourself later on, right? And then, just by virtue of the deck, just like really not caring about deck state in first deck, and being able to just like get hit to 2 and then do your game plan by getting hit to 2 in your first deck anyway, then I just felt like this was like the best way to play the deck, so you don't have to potentially take a bunch of damage normally, and then also have to hit yourself a bunch to get your cards back. Obviously, this runs into the problem of, like, if you don't actually go to 2 in first deck, then you do have to go into the second deck, but that's, I think, is fairly manageable. Obviously, the 2-1 Yuri is going to be the gigantic hit here. Not only for the fact that you use that card to consistently get cards from the top of your deck to try to dig for stuff, dig for 1-1 events, dig for your gold bar climax. You're using this at the end of your first deck to make sure you're, like, refreshing at a proper, like, number of cards in your deck. You use it in future deck cycles to draw gold bars after you refresh. But I think that one thing that is really underrated about losing the Yuri here is the fact that she was an 11k body on your board. And being able to maintain an 11k body across multiple turns going into that mid to late game stage of the game meant that you had more cards in your hand that you could use for Goat's Burns. It meant that you had more cards in your hand to use for Rest Counter, which is not restricted, by the way. You can continue just using that Rest Counter. It also gave you a body off which to leverage that Rest Counter. And then being able to maintain that 11k body also just meant that you're not having to use stock to replace that card to put more playables on the board to continue attacking with. So it does a lot to the deck outside of just making it harder to get gold bar. And I do think that overall, looking at all of these different factors, that the 2-1 Yuri is definitely going to be a gigantic hit to the deck. Because, like, you're never not picking the 1-1. The 1-1 is literally what makes the deck tick. You have effectively banned 2-1 Yuri and 1-0 Sheltier in the deck. And so...
And 0-0 Vampire Bride, because...
Okay, that card.
I mean, like, whatever. Like, you're never playing that card by itself. Like, whatever.
Right. I'm saying like that. You're banning all 3 cards effectively.
Sure.
That's what's happening.
I mean, sure.
Yeah, effectively, yeah. I have something crazy to say.
Mm-hmm.
So, have either of you guys seen the Vancouver winning list for Overlord?
No,
I have not. No.
So I knew that this guy. So this is William Tang, I believe, who was the world champion.
Oh, he was the Quince player when I casted Worlds. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. So 2022, he was world champion. He won Vancouver. I knew he wasn't playing Brides. I did not realize he was playing 1 Yuri.
That's kind of crazy.
People do that.
He is playing 24 zeros.
Huh.
Yeah, I believe that.
And he is not playing Rest Counter.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah, this list is a little crazy, but I wanted to bring this up because of what Rand was saying, how the Yuri, not only does it facilitate you drawing cards, but it's also a board slot that allows you to play around your rest counter better. The fact that he was already only on one Yuri and meant that he kind of forewent his ability to play rest counter, and so he just didn't run it. And like, that's actually kind of interesting because like he kind of recognized the fact that without a lot of Yuris, which I don't know why he's not playing that many Yuris, but like because he's not on Yuris, then rest counter is less valuable, so he just dished the rest counter. I wonder if this is actually just a line then.
Okay, but
now that we can't run Yuri.
I don't think that that's a trend. I don't think that's a trend thing. I think that's I'm pretty
Personal
sure
preference.
that like, well, not even that. I can pretty confidently say that outside of all of his games that day, probably at least like 30% of his matchups played around rest counter and he's not even running it.
Sure, I mean that's sure.
Like
that could just be a player diff, you know. You self-play yourself, right?
But I guess the point I was trying. Oh, sorry.
Sorry, you go ahead.
Oh, but I'm saying the point I was trying to make is that like you could actually just take his list, and you could drop the Yuri because he's only played one, and then like I guess you could just like throw in the rest counter, but like with the understanding that without Yuri, you're probably not going to be able to resolve this rest counter like meaningfully, if the rest of your board is going to die, until you get like double Eins out or whatever. But then you could actually just play this list. Like he has a list, no brides, basically no Yuri, and he won Vancouver with it.
Here's the thing: one copy of Yuri is still going to be obtainable in the majority of your games. You run 5 goats and 4 Shaltier combos. Like, if you really need it, you can find it. There obviously is going to be a percentage of games where like it just is in the reminder small stack of your first deck rotation when you hit level 2, or it's like the first card of your like first tri-field at level 0 and you just don't want to pay it out. But I feel like William probably just weighed the odds and just figured that the amount of times he needed to find Yuri and it's still being available for him to grab by the time he Shaltier combos or by the time he wants to play his 1/1 events, he'll just hold on to that one copy and then he'll just like loop it if he needs to. But like if he needs it, he'll still have access to it. And then the rest of the slots that normally players would play 2 or 3 copies, he'll just add 2 more zeros for early game consistency. Whereas nowadays, a lot of the time, it is just you can get huge advantages at level 0. So
yeah, so
I can respect it.
Like, so without having looked at the list, I would say that my main 2 questions before I like looked at the list would be, which brainstorm is he running? Because I feel like salvage brainstorm gets a lot of value here in a deck where you're only running 1 Yuri. You might want to play over it, get it back, right? But also, how many climax swaps is he running? Because if you're only on 4 Yuri, or if you're only on 1 Yuri, I would be on 4 climax swaps.
Okay, so the answer is he is on 4 climax swap.
Okay, good.
And his brainstorm spread is 4 tap 2 brainstorm and 2 top check 3 brainstorm.
Okay, I think top check 3 brainstorm is also valid here over salvage brainstorm.
I mean, I think you have to run top check 3 brainstorm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Without like extra draw, like you don't have Bryce, you don't have Yuri, like we said before. Like Mike said, you basically have to run top check 3 brainstorm.
Right.
Yeah. Without having met William and not having seen his games, my assumption is that he feels confident enough in his own deck and piloting that if he needs the 1 Yuri, he'll just get it.
I mean, like, this is definitely, like, I don't know if either of you guys remember this, but, like, when William won Worlds 2 years ago, he was Mr. 4 bounce back Ninos. And
yes, I remember this.
Yeah, that was definitely, like, that was the ratio that people were talking about, for sure, out of that deck. And so, like, he's definitely no stranger to trying things that he feels works, and, like, obviously it worked.
And it works,
yeah.
and it works, so props to him.
And guess how many shuffleback Eins he's running?
Shuffleback? I mean, like, that is literally, like, a wild card. Like, that can be a 0 to 2 card.
I mean, I don't think he's running more than 2.
I mean, like, if you're asking this, like, surely he's running 4. Surely he's running 4.
No, he's not on 4. He is on 2.
Okay.
But it is 2 in a deck that's not running freaking Bicorn, right? And I feel like
you know what I'm really upset about. They said Bushiroad said we're slightly reducing the deck's consistency. We don't want to shear off too much wool from our goats, but they just completely like shave bald my horse. Like this deck is unplayable. This
Sure.
this deck does not work anymore.
I think it can still work.
Simu, that deck
No.
Simu, that deck does not run level 1 combo, by the way.
Well, I mean, I feel like you can just run level 1 combo.
No.
No,
You don't understand, Simu.
You don't understand.
That deck-
Without
That deck literally
Without-
wants to use Shaltier's effect 6 times in 1 turn.
yeah.
Yeah, maybe just don't.
What do you mean just don't? What do you mean just don't?
Okay. I've had a theory that Bicorn deck is probably still playable without like Bride package for a while.
Press X.
If you don't believe me, I will play it on a Tressa's game like
Okay,
in the future.
Dude,
Like,
you know the goal of that deck is to get 3 Eins, right?
yeah, just show him get 3 eyes. It's fine.
That's literally the point, bro. Like,
Well, I mean, you don't. I'm saying like you don't need to get 3 eyes. Like, sure, the deck can get 3 eyes, but like you don't need to. Like, you can just use Bicorns as a way to like get eyes out profitably, right? Like that's fine. Like only 1 eyes is gonna have the markers anyways. Like the extra 2 eyes are just freaking like
right,
gigantic cherries on top.
you heard it here first. Simu's gonna play this on the channel, and he is going to keep Goat's Overlord's win rate at 0% on the channel. So
Look how they massacred my boy.
Yeah, anyways. So that was the Nazarick restriction. 3 very heavy impact restrictions, I would say. Certainly a lot of food for thought for competitive players moving forward. The restriction takes place starting February 3rd. Simu, what tournaments does that affect?
So that is not going to affect Cologne or Rosemont, which is happening on February 2nd. It's going to take place the day afterwards, which means that the first US or North America tournament that it will affect will be Tampa, Florida. Which is at the end of February.
Right,
it will also be in effect for Pasadena, which is in March for us.
Wait, hold on. I have one more thing to say because we've been talking a lot about decks that got hit, but I have.
Oh, I thought we were going to talk about that next. Sorry. Go
Oh,
ahead.
wait, we're gonna talk about what?
What didn't get unrestricted?
Yeah, like I mean, like literally everything. I mean, if you were gonna segue into that, then like yeah, I'll just let you do your thing. So yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, what is still on the list for some reason?
Kaguya-sama.
This is when we take out the full Bushiroad. Why are you still here? Tinfoil caps. So first of all, why
is Kaguya here?
why is Love still in war? Why are those 2 cards still on the list? Chika and Hayasaka.
What?
Like-
and it's not even. And it's the stupid hit too. Cause remember, like freaking Japan had the right hits, which was Chika and the it was Chika and the runner, right? Because like if you do it that way, then like decks could just not play the runner, and then they could just play Chika, and they could just have a normal time. But because they hit Chika and the freaking drop surge, every single level 3 Kaguya deck is just dead in the water because they can't play a freaking Riki on level 1. And so like. Oh my gosh, dude, Kaguya.
And Kaguya players, if they want to play Riki, they're still stuck with this 3-2 Chika, burn 2.
Oh
Let's
my
go. I'll play heal.
dude,
Burn 2.
Why?
It really
so-
irks me too. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Randall.
So I'm just saying I'm currently on the BCS master post for YC time. I'm gonna put KGL.
Control F KGL.
Control F KGL.
There are 0 results.
2 results.
Wait, there's 2?
There are 2.
Alright, let me see which countries played KGL.
It is Philippines and Singapore, and they are both 5 standby 3-door.
Oh yeah, 5 standby 3-door. I'm just not gonna play the Riki. I pretend it does not exist. Oh my goodness.
So I was gonna say, you know what really irks me is that
I opened both tabs. They're the exact
Wait, it's
same
the same
list.
deck.
It's exact
It's the
same
same
deck.
list. Yeah, it's the same deck. What the heck?
so clean cut Riki is obviously what was like very notorious for Kaguya. But like we're in a era now where like decks just not run 20+ zeros normally and can just tri-field basically whenever. And I feel like what used to be Kaguya's really strong point is just like a regular point now for most competitive decks. So like why is that still there? So yeah, that's number 1. Number 2. Why do Alice players have to continue to suffer?
Why is this still a 2?
Why have not?
Oh my.
Okay, so I do appreciate that when they first put Alice on the restriction list to limit her to 2, and strayed from the Japanese hit, which was just banning the 1/0 Alice spawner entirely and letting you play Alice regularly at level 2. I appreciated that they tried to experiment and still let players summon the 2/1 Alice at level 1, but you only can run 2 copies. However, that clearly still killed Alice. It does not work. And it's been like Alice is still trapped in the underworld. She has not come back to the surface. Like, she's just locked there. Why is she still locked there? Like, Sword Art is not relevant right now.
So here's the problem with their experiment, and I also appreciate that they did experiment, and they were like, okay, well, we're gonna try something different than JP, and we'll see how this pans out. And I do also appreciate that with their ban list, they've been trying to be pretty results oriented, right? They're not just banning things for fun or just copying the JP ban list for fun. They're actually like looking at results, looking at what's doing well, and trying to approach it with some critical thinking. The problem for the Sword Art ban list is that these 2 factors are converging to make it impossible for Alice to come out, because they hit Alice in such a way that she cannot be played in a healthy manner, right? That no decks playing 4 copies of the level 1 and 2 copies of level 2 are going to do well, but also no copies of the deck playing Alice at all is going to do well. So how are they going to reverse engineer their hit in a way that results based, they will end up with a deck?
Copy Japan.
Well, yeah. So at this point, the correct answer is to copy Japan. But unfortunately, they're kind of not doing that as much anymore. So it is now biting us in the ankle, butt, shin, everywhere. And there's no real way to undo this experimental hit without just like being like, all right, we'll just copy
of course
Japan
there is. They just needed to like literally look at what they had already on the list and just like use one
homework.
and just like use one brain cell.
Right. So like, I am also in agreement that like they should just copy Japan at this point. I'm just explaining that like their approach so far is making it difficult for them to just copy Japan like outright.
You know, Simu, I really appreciate that you're a glass half full kind of guy, and I usually tend to be as well. So, but however.
I mean, I would love to see this deck come back with playing like level 2 Alice and no level 1, because I do think that
English Sword Art players don't even have light novel. Like, they're already suffering.
Yeah.
All right.
I'll give them something.
Now there is one.
I mean, if you guys, oh sorry,
there is one more. There is one more thing here. But
Mhm.
go ahead.
On the Sword Art point, I remember like back in when we were discussing Alice Balance, I actually wanted the level 1 to be hit to 1. I still feel like that's probably fine. Like, we can probably get that still. Like, I actually still think so. So, like, that's
I'd
fine.
I'd rather just not see it exist.
I mean, I'm just saying, like I am in favor of Alice coming back for sure. Like, I actually think they can do more, but like, anyways.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
All right, Randall, go ahead.
So there is one more thing on this list that should not be here, and it just got in the Japanese version. It just got the restriction lifted. So like maybe they're just gonna let it cook for one Japanese format before they decide to take it off.
Yeah.
But...
So since the restriction got lifted in Japanese, it will never get lifted, just like with Kaguya.
Yeah. Okay, but anyways, that said is Data Live. Data Live has been consistently getting stuff off the list in both Japan and English, a little bit at a time. It used to be a choose 1 of 4. Now it is down to a choose 1 of 2. And in Japan, they just got this off, and it's only a matter of time before, surely, it's only a matter of time before this comes off in English. It's just not off here yet.
I can't hear you over the sound of Kaguya still being banned.
All right, so here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna have you guys poll in the comments which gets unrestricted first, Data Live or Kaguya-sama. Which one is gonna get unrestricted first?
Or a miraculous simultaneous unrestrictioning.
Or both. Yes.
We're all free now.
If Data Life gets unrestricted first and Kaguya does not get unrestricted on that same ban list, I will scream. I will jump off something.
What's that? I can't hear you over the sound of Nino getting unhit, and Gura going back to 4.
No shot.
Before Data Live
No shot.
gets to play with its with its 1/1.
Wait, you? Oh, for Data Live? I mean, like,
it's kind of comical how long these hits that really don't need to be hits anymore have stayed on the list. But it is what it is at this point. Realistically, if they come back, they're not going to be super relevant. Though I do think that people will certainly try, But yeah.
Channel my glass half full energy right now and say at least the English ban list doesn't have as many extraneous hits as the JP ban list. Like, I look at the JP ban list and like literally half of the list is like not relevant anymore. So like I look at the English list and I'm like, oh, there's only those 3. Everything else is like either there because it should be there, or like it's there because it should be on the errata page, but they put it on the ban list instead.
yeah.
So like it could be so much worse.
All right, so let's wrap things up. I'm gonna have 2 questions for you guys, and you guys can just answer as long as short as you want. Actually, let's try to keep it brief. So the 2 questions I have would be: are there any sets that you wanted to see get hit that did not get hit? And 2, on a scale of 1 to 10, overall, how satisfied are you with the list? Let's start with Simu here. Anything that you wanted to get hit series-wise that did not get hit?
Anything I want to get hit series-wise? So looking at the results for this season, I think that for the most part, everything egregious has already been hit, and the next set is like maybe like Hololive, but I think Hololive is not like a oppressive deck, so I think it's fine if Hololive does well. The next few sets upcoming in the English meta, which are really popular in Japan and like really strong and just recently got hit in Japan, I feel like those are a little bit more of my worries going forward. Not so much sets that are already out, it's the sets that are coming out. But I think for everything that's already out in existence that Brewshield had the ability to hit at this point, I think they did a good job. So I'm going to give this a pretty resounding 9. I actually think this was a really good hit. And it is also interesting enough that like I think leaves players room to cook without just like ending the decks that they chose to hit. So 9, solid 9 out of 10, I think.
Randall?
Yeah, I think that given that they actually like gave the context of like they know what's coming up, those being the Nino deck and the Bunny Girl deck, saying that they don't want to take these decks and then just completely like move them out of the way and let these new decks come in and just absolutely steamroll all of the weakened decks, I think that definitely gives the list a lot more credibility. And honestly, maybe outside of 7 Deadly Sins, I think 7 Deadly Sins is probably going to be the one that people are going to settle fairly quickly on, but I am quite excited to see the direction where the other 2 go. I still am pretty upset that Shuna and Stock Swap both evaded this list, but like that's like I'm just gonna keep saying that. That's just gonna be something that you keep hearing from me. And apart from that, I would say the list is quite solid. I wouldn't give it the 9 that Simu gave it, but it's definitely a pretty good list, I would say.
We gotta have a number for the audience. Gotta have a number.
Let's go with like, oh god, let's go with like 8, I guess.
All right, 8's still pretty good. That's a solid score. I would agree with both of you guys. I think I personally expected, as most people did, that SDS and Slime were to get hit. Nazarick, I think, was the big coin flip. But I am on the side of, I do not think this deck is very healthy to be in existence. And while they didn't unexistence it, it certainly has given Nazarick players a lot of food for thought and has gotten them into much more of a consistency pinch. Therefore, it should be reason that players will bring it less, especially with a lot of the other powerful sets we have coming up. But if you still wanted to play Eins, you still can play Eins. So I can live with that result. I also do very appreciate their explanations. Certainly, you can see their logic, and I appreciate the foresight, like Randall mentioned, about how they were thinking about how sets that we have right now are going to deal with two of the heavy hitters coming out in Quince and Bunny Girl. So I would give this list an 8 point. I'll give it an 8. I'll give it an 8.
We went from 9 to 8.5 to 8. Okay.
See, it's like I don't want to be a 0.5er, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I like myself some nice whole numbers.
Okay.
But I couldn't justify it being a 9. Just because I really personally, very biasedly, just don't like seeing Muron. But I get it. So, I can appreciate the effort made. And I think Yom is actually quite a significant hit. So, no, slime players will have to struggle a bit. But you still have the cool tools to play with. So, that about wraps things up for our immediate reactions to the Winter 2025 Bushiroad Weiss Schwarz ban list. It should be a very interesting road from here on out with the remainder of singles regionals leading into World Finals in Japan this May. So our Quince content block is coming up very soon. We're going to cover all the new Quince decks, and then hopefully we will start interspersing some post-restriction deck ideas from these 3 sets moving forward. But until then, thank you guys so much for watching.
Well, when are we putting this up? Because like, do you just want to put it up raw? I was thinking maybe I could just put some.
You can just like do very minor edits if you want, and then we'll just put it up like immediately.
Okay, sure.
I think that's fine. Yeah, like this is just knee-jerk reaction day 1 content, you know. So I think it's fine.
Okay.
So yeah. On behalf of the Tressa's Collectibles team, thank you guys for watching. This has been Mike alongside Simu. I was the one that let you know, it's not a Tressa's Collectibles video / live stream without some Mike awkwardness.
Yes, my name is Simu. Yes, all right, I'm here.
And
and
I'm Randall, aka Cheesy Cats.
If you guys didn't know, now you know. And rip in peace, my little horses. You will never get sleeved up again unless Simu decides to send me a 50 card list that he cooked. So we'll see. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed. Let us know in the comment section what you guys personally thought about the restriction list. Are you mad? Are you happy? Are you gonna move on to a new set? If you were maining one of these restriction sets, what thought you guys have? Let us know. We'll read every single one of them and respond quickly. But until
my god, he is so Roboto right now.
Oh god. I'm dying.
Maybe it's the internet. It's the internet.
Let us know in the comments section what you guys think about the ban list. Are you guys happy, upset? Are you going to move on to a new deck if you're remaining one of these decks? Or are you going to try to figure something out and continue grinding your favorite series? And we'll read all those comments and respond accordingly. But until the next video, thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!